Unless you've been living under a rock, you should know what this one is. It's the Erebus Origin, also known as Jody's watch. As in Jody of Just One More Watch. And if you hadn't heard of this one, then the big news over the last week is that he's announced his second watch for the brand. Now, I don't have that one, can't tell you much about it. But a little while ago, he did ask me if I'd take a look at the Origin. And since it's Jody, I obviously said yes. It's kind of hard to say no to him, especially when he starts every email with hello. But the thing is, as I was getting ready to do this review, I realized you guys probably already know practically everything about this one. There's been so many other reviews out there. So instead of the regular detailed review, I thought we'd do something a little bit different. That we'd break this down into 5 reasons to get it and 5 reasons not to get it. 5 pros, 5 cons. And we are going to bounce in between the two. And for full transparency's sake, cue the whole Star Trek red alert sound, Jody did provide these watch and he's not asking for them back, hence the whole promotional tag. And if you didn't catch it, he actually sent me 2 of these. Got the black dial and they got the purple. So we're going to start things off with kind of a weird analogy. And that's that this watch is really the in and out double-double of the watch world. Stay with me here. And while I'm trying to explain this and you're trying to figure out what's wrong with me, just enjoy the specs and enjoy looking at the watch. Now, if you've never heard of it, In-N-Out is a famous burger chain from California. One that's been spreading outward. But if you've never been there and you've heard people talking about it, you'd think that it's the best burger in the entire world. It's not. But as someone who spent the last few decades in Texas but grew up in California, I get asked about In-N-Out a lot. And I gotta tell them, no, it's not the best burger in the world. You can't really go in there thinking that. You'll wind up disappointed. But what In-N-Out has is the best burger for under $4. Or it used to be $4. Now it's probably like 8 or 9. Inflation sucks. But the point is, for the money, this is probably the best burger out there. It's a burger so good, you can ignore how bad the fries are. Or another way to say it is that it's the best entry-level burger in the world. See, I did have a point here. And that's really what Jody was going for with this one. He wasn't trying to make the best diver ever. But instead, he was trying to make the best entry-level diver he could for the price. And for $350, I think he succeeded. Because everything you could want in a great diver is here. He's really been listening to what people have been saying over the last few years. And he's tried to give you everything you could want. Which includes a ceramic bezel, great LUME, quick release bracelet, on-the-fly adjustable clasp, an H-link style bracelet instead of an oyster, as well as a very interesting angled case. And there's crown guards as well as the closed case back. Because if there isn't on a diver, people complain. In fact, the interesting thing for me as another reviewer is that while I'm looking at this, I'm kind of seeing a greatest hits of some of the best microbrands I've seen over the last few years. Like I see a little bit of Helm, a little bit of Phoebus, a little bit of Zelos, and part RZE. So if you're looking for a great value watch, this might be one of the best ones outside AliExpress. Now, the opposite side of this, the first negative, the first con, is that if you already have a great diver, there really isn't much of a reason to get this one. So if you already have a Helm, a Phoebus, or a Zelos, you've probably seen most of this before. And if you have something at a higher price point, this one really may not offer you anything you don't already have. You may already have a great diver with a great quick adjust bracelet, or even one with a hardened scratch resistant coating that this one doesn't. Now, reason number 2 to buy it is that there are a lot of interesting options to pick from. From 8 different colorways, 2 different bracelet options, and a variety of straps, there's gotta be something here for everybody. So in some ways, this is also kind of the Burger King of the watch world. You can have it your way. That said, one comment I have is on the 2 different bracelets. I really don't understand why there's 2. You have this curved H-link bracelet and then a straight H-link bracelet. Yeah, they're 2 different bracelets, but they're both H-link bracelets. Wouldn't it make more sense to have a second option that's something different? Like an oyster, a jubilee, a shark mesh, something? Now, con number 2, and I kind of already mentioned this one, is that the design is a bit uninspired. It's a tad unoriginal, as well as the dial is textured and pretty flat. With that last 2 being my biggest personal negatives. I think flat textured dials are getting a bit overdone. And depending on the colorway, you risk looking more plasticky than anything else. And for me, I like my diver dials to be a bit more interesting. A design that's more engaging to take in with a bit more depth. And this one is wide, pretty flat, and has everything painted on it, as well as flat as a pancake arrow hands. However, the flip side to all of that is a good thing, because it creates a ton of surface area for LUME. Something Erebus took full advantage of, and knowing Jody, knowing LUME Wars, makes perfect sense. And I think these have actually been improved since the prototype reviews, as these are some of the best watches I've seen when it comes to LUME. These are King of LUME levels LUME. The dial does fade out a little sooner, but the hands are able to keep up with a Phoebus Great Wall and a Wise 88 Diver, two of my Kings of LUME. So LUME here will not disappoint. However, con number 3 is that one thing that might disappoint you is the rough finishing, which, granted, for the price is completely acceptable. But there are a lot of sharp edges here, especially on the back of the bracelets, both versions. So, like I said, for the price, this is reasonable and acceptable. But if it is something that bothers you, then you know to stay away. Let's go back to that flat, wide dial design again, because there is another good thing about it, which is that the wide, flat design makes it one that's very legible and very easy to read, especially with these two versions that have darker dials. The white, broad indices and hands just pop out at you when you look at it. So again, this may not be the most interesting dial design ever, but in some ways it's not supposed to be. This is designed to be a straightforward tool watch, and that's something I think it does exceed at, as well as being a spec monster. As for the fourth reason against it, it does seem a little heavy for a diver, and I think wears a little bit larger than you would expect. Most of which I think is due to the bracelet design. Now, both of these look like they have female end links, but that first little connection here isn't fully articulating. It barely has any mobility at all. It just sort of sticks out at a slight angle, which then increases the effect of lug-to-lug a bit. Now, the watch here is a 41, which I think seems like a great in-between size. But with the effect of lug-to-lug a little bit bigger, I think it comes closer to wearing like a 42. Which is still not bad, but if you are part of the slender-wristed club, this might be a problem, and especially paired with those sharper back edges. And the last, fifth con, is that there are some inconsistencies between these two watches. Like with the bezel. On the black version, it's fairly tight and a little hard to rotate, while on the purple one, it's practically perfect, with a great clicky action. Then there's some issues with the on-the-fly adjustable clasps. On the straight link version, the on-the-fly clasp seems to stick a bit. Like maybe there's something kind of gunking it up. Whereas with the curved bracelet, it's great. Now, Erebus is a new brand, and Jody is new to the whole manufacturing process. So it's quite understandable that they're still working out some of the QC kinks. But that's still a pretty big negative for you, the consumer. And finally, the last reason to buy an Origin is simply to support Jody. Which I know not everyone will think is a real reason, but he's been such a positive influence in the community, I think it is. And it's definitely better than the whole spaghetti scametti scam thingy Ben pulled last year. Yeah, it was funny, it was creative, but it's a crap watch. So it really was more of a gimmick to get your money. And the crazy thing is that's pretty much what he said. So truth in advertising. But here, with the Origin, this is the real deal. This isn't a joke to Jody, he's serious about building something. And despite some of the flaws, for the money, this is one of the best entry-level divers out there. So you will be getting your money's worth while you support him. And with that, we're done. 5 pros, 5 cons, 5 reasons to buy, 5 reasons to avoid. And if you want more, like a full detailed review, I'd recommend checking out Dave's. I'll have a link down below to his channel, Just the Watch. And as always, you guys know what to do down below. I'm Shane, this is Relative Time, and I'll see you next time.